Thank you, Blackfoot Communications, for sponsoring tonight's event. Welcome. Oh, I can take this in when I'm on the mic. Welcome to Tell Us Something. This event is being recorded by MCAT as a part of a grant for Missoula, or for Tell Us Something. Thank you all for being here. Did you get some food? Did you get some kombucha? Thanks to all the food trucks. Thanks to the kombucha folks. True Food Missoula, Empanada Joint, and House of Ferments. So good. I want to acknowledge that we are on native land. And what does that mean? To me, what that means is we should be cognizant of how we use the land. And Joyce and I thought about this a lot today when we were picking up dog poop for an hour. So I see people, on the trail. I'll get it on the way back. No, you won't. Get it now. And that is a way to respect the land and respect your other hikers. Okay. Please join me in welcoming our special guests this evening. We have two. The Montana Innocence Project. They provide free legal services to innocent Montanans. The Montana Innocence Project has freed 7 people since 2008. Those freed individuals collectively spent more than 100 years wrongfully incarcerated. Give it up for the Montana Innocence Project. We also welcome our friends, the SUSE educators. SUSE is the study of the United States Institutes for Global Scholars, and they are a U.S. Department of State-sponsored program for mid-career international scholars and educators designed to improve the teaching about the United States in academic institutions abroad. Give it up for SUSE. Show of hands, how many people have never been here before? All right, welcome to our new friends. So for the people who have been here before and who were here maybe last August when we did this outside, thank you for your patience with the ticket buying situation. I know it's not ideal. Trying to keep ticket prices low and service fees low, and the price that we paid for that was a lot of frustration. So we are having an event in September at the Denison Theater. And we've selected a different ticket buying solution that I've tested a couple of times, and it's pretty seamless and it's pretty snappy. And I'm really excited about it. They're out of Bozeman. They're called Event Groove. And you can buy your tickets tonight if you want to. Scan the little QR code on the handbills that were available at the entrance stations. The show is called, the theme is Letting Go. And it'll be September 27th at the Denison. So those tickets are available right now. What else we got? If you choose to wear a mask, I'm grateful for that. I obviously can't force you to do that, but COVID isn't over. And so I'm going to be wearing a mask anytime I'm not on the mic. And if you don't have one and you want one, they're available at all of the entrance gates. There is some merchandise available over here. I guess we don't have a credit card situation, so if you want merch and you have cash, go talk to one of our board members, Jason Sloat or Sierra Ty Brownlee. Okay, so for those of you who've never been, here's what's going to happen. We have 7 individuals selected from the Missoula community, or region, actually. We have folks from out of town as well. But my belief is if you come in and out of Missoula, you spend time here, you spend money here, you are a part of the community. So we've got 7 individuals from the Missoula community. They are going to be sharing their true personal story from memory without notes on the theme, Didn't See That Coming. Each of them have 10 minutes to share their story. And at 9 minutes, board member Rachel Bemis is going to give a small gong, maybe. Yeah, it'll sound kind of like that. And that doesn't mean like you're doing a bad job or get off the stage. That means they have 1 minute remaining. And I'm not going to come up and yank them off the stage if they're not done after 1 minute, but that indicates to them, if they're not paying attention, that it's time to wrap it up. Indicates to you, if you're bored, this one's almost over. But I guarantee you're not going to be bored tonight. We've got 7 amazing stories, and I am so pleased to bring them to you. Please silence your cell phones and other mobile devices if you haven't already. You came to listen. Let the listening begin. I say that at every event, and it is important to come together and actively listen to one another and join together and support each other by sharing stories. When we do this, we can better connect with ourselves and each other and with our community. At every event, I say, this is your community, these are your stories. The stories you hear at every Tell Us Something event are told by our community, and we have a call for storytellers out for the September show. So if you think you have a letting go story that you would like to share, you can call the pitch line, and that number is also on those handbills that you can get at any of the entrance stations. Okay. Some Tell Us Something stories use adult language and have adult themes, so be aware of that as well. Our first storyteller tonight is Ray Scott. Ray Scott is a theater nerd through and through. They enjoy animals, music, and they are pretty sure that gingers will ruin their life. With an incredibly large family who puts the fun in dysfunctional, they have a lot of love to give. Ray looks life directly in the eye and observes before responding with ferocious truth. Ray is an old soul ready to share their truth on the stage and in a variety of yet other unknown art forms. Ray respects your choice to use their preferred pronouns, they, them, theirs. Please welcome Ray Scott.
Okay, I think that every good love story begins with a heartbreak. The end of my 8th grade year, my biological mother kind of went a little crazy. She ended up leaving with my 3 siblings, and I had no idea where she went, and I had no idea if she was coming back. I was really scared and disappointed, but I think I knew that that was coming. A few months later, driving to the China buffet, I saw her Subaru, or her Suburban. I could tell because the back window was busted out. In the Suburban was there she sat. My siblings were playing around at Little Caesars. I haven't seen them for months, and I was so absolutely happy to see them. And when I saw my mom, she didn't even get out the car to say hi to me. That's about 5 years ago. I was 13. I'm 18 now, and I still haven't seen her since. About a little while after that, my dad had gotten divorced for the 2nd time, and we were all really numb at that point. Women were coming in and out of our lives, and we were all kind of defeated. My dad ended up coming home one day and saying that he had met a very lovely woman on Match.com. Not sponsored. And he said her name was Angela. And I was really excited, but I was really, really nervous. I had sat with myself for hours and hours and asking myself, what was wrong with me? Why won't women stay in my life? Why won't women stay and love me for the person that I am? Feels like maybe 2 weeks, but it was definitely longer than that. But she had ended up moving in with her 2 lovely boys, Alex and Aaron. And it was a bit of a rough start. My older brother Connor and I, it had been a while since we started a new family, met new people. So we were all a little bit nervous. After a long, long while of bonding, not bonding, fighting, buckets being thrown at younger siblings, I had hit a stopping point with Angie. When you have similar trauma to somebody, you know exactly where to hit when it comes to fighting. We would always jab each other. And sometimes we meant it, sometimes we didn't, but nevertheless, it always really hurt. Once again, I had to sit down with myself and ask, what is wrong with me? Why won't women love me? Why won't women stay? Why don't I have a mom? Why won't this new mom love me? So I was ready to give up. I didn't want to keep trying. I didn't want to keep pushing for something that I didn't think I was going to get. I was out and about downtown with some friends, and I came across the artist workshop, and there were the peace sign stickers. And I was like, oh, Angie would love this, Angie would love this. So I got her some, and the cashier was like, oh, this is happening. There's a hike that's going up at Waterworks Hill. For those of you who don't know, Waterworks Hill is a hiking path where the old peace sign used to be. There's a huge peace sign that when you drove into Missoula you could see. And they had a hike that was going on. And I was like, oh, Angie would love that. This is like my final chance to reconnect with this person, my final chance to really convince her that she should stay, that I'm a good person. And so that night I asked her, I was like, let's go for this hike, it's Mother's Day weekend. I would love to do this with you. And she said, yeah, okay. So the night before, I'm laying in my bed. I'm like, okay, here's all the stupid shit you don't say to your mom. Okay. I'm prepping myself for this day. It needs to go perfect. This is my last chance. It has to be perfect. That morning I wake up, unbelievably nervous. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm really excited. So we're talking, we start driving up to the hill, and a lot of people are there, and I got to meet the previous, I think she's a founder of the JRPC. Anyway, very lovely people. But I remember it being so cold. We were at the bottom, it was nice and toasty, it was warm. We hike up this hill. I'm wearing Converse, which is a very poor foot choice to go hiking in. But I did it anyway, because I have no fear. I'm walking up this hill with Angie, and we're just talking about anything in our lives, anything that we could grasp onto. I wasn't trying hard to start a conversation, didn't want to make it obvious I was trying hard. So we finally get up to the top of the hill, and they're doing a presentation about the old peace sign and the people that were painting the peace sign. And oh my God, it was stupidly windy. It was so cold. It was so cold up there, and I had only brought in a hoodie, a zip-up hoodie, and nothing else, maybe a beanie. But I was so cold. Angie is really smart. She has a really good job of thinking ahead, and so she had ended up making us some bone broth. It wasn't the best, but it was really warm and it was really lovely. And she had also made me a cup of tea beforehand. It's like she knew it was going to be freezing. So we're up there, we're listening to these stories. She's listening to these stories. I'm trying to make this woman stay in my life. And I look at her, and she's paying attention so thoughtfully and so beautifully. And I look at her, and it's so hard not to cry. because at that moment I realized how much I truly loved this woman and how much I desperately needed her to stay in my life. So I look at her and I say, "Angie, it's so cold." And she unzips her hoodie, wraps it around me, and just stands there with me. She keeps me warm. We go down that hill, and I'm so relieved. I didn't have to speak a single word to this woman, and she was my mom. I had never gotten prom dress shopping before. No one had ever braided my hair or went on drives with me to talk about boys and eat ice cream. But Angela took me prom dress shopping. Angela braided my hair. She still does. And Angela takes me on car rides, and talks to me about boys, and eats chocolate with me. Thank you, Mom.
Thanks, Ray. To the other storytellers, just a reminder to get close to the mic. You've got your own windscreen, so that's going to help everyone hear better. Our next storyteller is Ann Peacock. Ann Peacock has been a resident of Missoula since the late 1980s, which she swears was just 3 weeks ago. She now calls Polson her home and is gradually adjusting to life outside the big city of Missoula. She is thrilled to be included in the wonderful group of Tell Us Something participants and would like to express her gratitude for everyone here, those listening and those telling their stories. Please welcome Ann Peacock.
Oh, okay. I'm short, so. Oh gosh, thank you. Oh, perfect. The windscreen there. Okay. Oh no, it's perfect. So, hi. So, in the beginning of October of 2019, I woke up and I was exhausted. I was also a little nauseous and I had some slight tremors, but I just put it down to growing old. So then I found out that a friend of mine had been diagnosed with mono, and she and I had been sharing a mic. Well, let me rephrase that because my husband's name is Mike. So we had actually been sharing a microphone, and so I went to get tested. So no to mono, but my liver function was off. So 2 weeks, and there are more tests, and there's more nausea and more Netflix. And I wake up, and I am in the hospital with an IV in my arm. It is nighttime, it is dark and peaceful and quiet, and I have no idea how I got there. So it turns out that my husband had come home from work and found me still in bed, and I was incoherent and slurring my words, so he rushed me to the ER, where I was diagnosed with dehydration and ammonia on the brain. So the next day, we're in the hospital, the doctor comes in, and he tells us that I probably have acute liver failure and that I most likely will need a liver transplant. And he wants to life flight me over to the transplant center at the University of Washington in Seattle. Didn't see that coming. Really. Look, I was a 57-year-old healthy woman. You know, I tried to eat right and exercise, and I had literally spent my life trying to avoid alcohol because my dad was an alcoholic and he died from his disease. I mean, I didn't even like to take over-the-counter medication. So the leap from dehydration to liver transplant was pretty shocking. So then the doctor tells us that he sees that we're kind of like deer in the headlights. And so he starts to try to dial it back a little bit. And he sort of emphasizes, well, the might need a liver, could possibly, and just in case, he is insisting that I get life flighted out to UW. So my husband and I are like, well, can't we drive? I mean, life flight is incredibly expensive. I mean, we think it's like around $100,000. And our insurance, we're not sure if it covers it. And it's only 8 hours. And the doctor's like, well, you might survive the drive over there, but you might not. And really, I mean, when you think about it, what's your life worth? It's just $100,000. So I am life flighted out to UW. Get there about 11 o'clock at night, and I am in the UCU, and I am immediately inside an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Every single person in the room, except for me, is a very attractive 30-something professional. And there's like all this clever dialogue and snappy banter back and forth between the nurse. So the ICU doctor is gorgeous. He has these soft, warm hands and these deep blue eyes and this really great jawline. So my girlfriend nicknames him Dr. McDreamy. So he is also, though, caring and kind and reassuring. And every single doctor and nurse and support staff that I meet in that hospital the entire time I stay there is the same. And I feel seen, and I feel taken care of, and I feel safe. So, which is a wonderful feeling. And I am laying in the bed, and I am overcome with this sensation, surrounded by all these wonderful people, that I am so blessed and humble. And I have never really used that term before. I think of it as sort of like, have a nice day. But in that moment, I understood what being blessed and humble really felt like. And it was incredible. And it was not just the doctors and the nurses and the support staff. I mean, it was everyone. It was my family and my friends who all stepped up to the plate and did whatever needed to be done. And I was astonished by the amount of love and support that people gave me. And I told my husband later, I said, I really need to work on being the person that all these people seem to think I am. Which I'm still trying to do. So my husband and my best friend, who are driving over from Missoula, get there about 1 o'clock. And by that time, I am deep into the process of getting registered on the transplant registry. Hard to say. So because there are so many more people who need transplants than there are organs available, you have to meet a certain criteria for them to accept you as an organ recipient. So, which is a little like standing before the pearly gates, I have to admit. But everyone is very encouraging. And basically, what you need to do is you just need to survive the operation and be able to take care of this amazing gift that they are giving you. So we're almost done. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then they say, we need to check your teeth. I'm like, what? And they're like, sure. So apparently, if you have tooth decay, certain operations, you will release a flood of bacteria into your bloodstream, and you can get a life-threatening infection. So I am thinking, oh no, because I'm thinking of all the years that I haven't flossed. And I am thinking, oh my God, not flossing will kill me. And my dentist is right. So again, they're very encouraging, and obviously, I managed to, make it through, and I get put on the registry. So now the ICU's job is to keep me alive for as long as they can until I find a match. And I am so lucky because I have magical blood. It is AB positive, and I can match A, I can match B, I can match A, B, and O positive blood. I am a universal receiver. One of the things, though, about 3 days in, they're worried about is fluid building up on the brain. So to combat that, they insert a catheter kind of through my neck and get it as close to my heart as they can, and then they pump this high sodium solution into me. I'm not allowed to eat because I could go into surgery at any moment. I'm not allowed to drink because they're really watching my fluids. So I am incredibly thirsty. So, and to make matters worse, every time I try to trick the nurses or doctors into getting me ice chips, my husband and my best friend, who stay with me the entire time in the room, leap up and go, "No, she can't have them." But then my back starts to hurt, and the nurse offers me a cold pack, and I have a choice between ice or gel. And I choose the ice. So late at night, when everyone is asleep, I pry this ice bag open. And then I think, really, how sterile is the inside of a reusable ice bag at a hospital? So I compromise. I say, I'll only drink half a glass, which I do. And it is the nectar of the gods. And then I immediately call the nurse in and have her take it away so I am not tempted. And from then on, I only use gel packs. But one of the other things about being on the liver registry is that you have to let them know what level of liver you were willing to take. So I found out that there are actually 3 tiers of organ donors, and that the first tier is perfect. The second tier has some slight medical anomaly that they can fix with a minor surgery. And the third level is hepatitis C. So hepatitis C is now curable, and it's really easy. You just take this one pill every day for 30 days. But it's this hepatitis C group that is so tragic, because most of the people in this group are young people who have died of a drug overdose. And there is no way around it that I have to face that I am benefiting from someone else's tragedy. So you're not allowed to contact your donor family directly, but you can write them a letter, and the social worker at the hospital will pass it on. And it has been 2.5 years, and I have not found the right words to say. Because how do I thank someone for giving me back my future when they've just lost theirs? So, spoiler alert, I got the transplant. It went well. I am here. Thank you. And I wake up in the recovery room, and it is nighttime, and it is dark and quiet and peaceful. I'm a little disoriented, but I look over and I see my husband's bright orange water bottle just there on the table, and I immediately relax because I know that he is in the room with me. And then I think I'm also relaxed because I realize that I can have a drink of water whenever I want. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. I'll get there. Okay. Our next storyteller is Mblavi Aboyibo. I hope I got your name right. Mblavi. I've been practicing this, I swear, but I'm just not doing a good job. Okay. Mblavi Aboyibo is an English teacher from Blita High School in Blita, Togo, which is in Western Africa. He is an MA holder and is a high school English teacher there, and he is one of the Suzy Secondary Educators for 2022. Please welcome Mblavi Aboyibo.
Hi. I think it's a privilege and an honor for me to be here and, to tell my story. Thank you so much for inviting me. Actually, it was one Friday afternoon after study at university. I was so tired and hungry as well. So I decided to walk out of the campus to find a taxi and go back home. Busy with my telephone, I was writing and reading messages. And suddenly, a smell of a perfume drew my attention. Oh, it was the best smell ever. The perfume smelled like a lilac. I was obliged to raise my hand and see who was passing by. Fortunately for me, I saw a young, beautiful lady passing by with a big bottle, walking. Hi, lady, where are you going? She said, go home. What is your name? Jane, she replied me. Oh, Jane, you are so beautiful. I love your bodybuilding. The sun used to see beauties, but the sun has never seen a girl beautiful like you. Definitely, I would like you to become my girlfriend. So she paused for a minute, for some seconds, and said, I will think over it and let you know after all. Can you give me your telephone number? She said, no problem, and she gave me her business card. Definitely, I told myself that the battle was half won. If she gave me her number, it means that she will accept the offer. So when I went back home at night, I tried her number to make sure that she reached home safe and sound. But I tried in vain. The number was not working. I was frustrated. I was asking myself so many questions. Did she give me a wrong number? What happened with her telephone? Or I myself, I didn't write the number well. I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep that night until midnight. I was turning right and left on the bed. So after midnight, I decided to try the number again. And this time, the telephone started to ring. I was half satisfied because for me, she will pick the call. It kept on ringing, but she didn't pick the call. Finally, I sent her a message, and I went back to my bed. This time, I slept because, there is hope now that the number is working. The next morning, she called me, apologizing for the fact that she was not with her telephone. And I told her, no, you shouldn't worry about that. There is no problem with that. But can we meet together in the evening for dinner? She said, no problem. I was so excited to meet her in the evening because I would like to see the same beautiful girl I saw the evening before. And when we met during our over the dinner, she let me know that she welcomed my idea of becoming my friend. I said, wow. And from that time, I used to call her 3 times a day. In the morning, honey, how are you? Did you have a good sleep? At 12 o'clock, I used to call her, what are you going to eat for lunch? And then in the evening, did you have a good day? So sleep with a lot of love. This is how we started. After 9 months of relationship, we decided to get married, have as many children as possible, and people the whole world. And it was from there that I decided to know her parents. Actually, her parents were divorced, and both they were living in their different villages. I decided to meet her mother first, because in my community, if your mother-in-law accepts you, it means that the father-in-law will accept you. That's why I decided to meet the mother first. So we had 2 hours and a half trip to visit the mother. When we went there, after self-greeting and self-introduction, she offers us a delicious meal. Even when I was at the gate, the smell of the meal made my mouth water. Wow. I say, what kind of meal is this? It was rice and chicken. It was such a delicious meal. After eating the meal, I thanked her very profusely for the honor, because the meal she offered to us was in fact great. And after that, after eating the meal, we continued the discussion. And she asked me, tell me, where are you from? And I told her, I am from Vaughan, village situated in the south of Togo. Are your parents also living in the same place? And I say, yes. She stood up and said, no, you cannot be with my girl. Actually, I told her that, in fact, I would like to get married with her daughter. That's why I have come to see her. No, you cannot get married with my daughter. That one is not possible. And she quit the house and the room and left Jane and I in the room. Actually, the problem is that the highest personality of the country are from the north. Jane and her parents are from the north, and then I am from the south. And then the highest personalities of the north, most of them consider those from the south as inferior to them. So Jane's mother cannot imagine that her daughter can bring somebody from the south to her that she would like to marry with that person. And we were in the room for some minutes. The mother was not coming back. And suddenly, Jane started to cry. If you don't want me to marry Ablambi, I'm going to kill myself. I felt very sorry for her. I tried to console her, but she was unconsolable. She kept on crying. And finally, I decided that we should leave. But the mother was not coming. When we went out of the room, the mother sat at the gate of the house. I went to her and made her a farewell. In fact, before going, I brought her a nice gift. It was a nice necklace that I brought to her. In fact, I would like to let her know that by that gift, I will take good care of her daughter, in fact. But she refused. No, I don't want your gift. Go away with your gift. I don't want you to be with my daughter anymore. I felt very frustrated, and I was sorry. But Jane kept on crying at that time, and we drove back. On our way back home, she kept on crying. I tried my best to convince her not to cry, but she kept on crying. I even told her that I didn't take credit for what her mother told me, that I continue to love her. She has to believe in me. We have to continue till the end, but she didn't believe me. Back home the next morning, she felt very sick. When I called, the people with whom she's in the same room, they told me that she was very sick and she was brought to hospital. Wow. I went to visit her in the hospital, and she told me that even if she died, I have to be convinced that she loves me. And I have to keep it in my mind that there is a girl called Jane who loved me and who died for me. So I told her she shouldn't say things like that she has to recover, and together we will get married. She was there until she stayed in the hospital for a week. And after that, she recovered, and she was sent back home. And from that time, she suggested to me that we should go now and see her father. I hesitated at the beginning because I was afraid that what happened with the mother may happen to me again. I didn't accept at the beginning, but she convinced me that we should go. And we take 2 hours drive to visit his father. And when we arrived at the gate, I told her to be in front. I would like to hide. And then she was in front, and we went into the room. The father welcomed us and offers us a drink. In fact, in my community, if you visit somebody, the first thing the person gonna offer you is water. So he offered us water, and we drink. And he asked me what wind blows me there. It means the purpose of my visit. And I told him that, in fact, I love his daughter a lot, and I would like to get married with her. And actually, I have come to know him so that I see what I can bring as a dowry to him. And he said, great ideas. Oh, if you come to see me, it means that you love my daughter. I like your idea. You should not worry. I was really surprised, and I was happy. And Jane was happy as well. She stood from her chair and came and hugged me. And that day, we even wanted to kiss each other in front of the father, but it's not allowed. And, and then finally, he gave me the list, and then I went back. After 2 months, I tried to buy everything that I need. And then we went back. I invited my parents. We were together. We paid a dowry, and we celebrated the traditional marriage. That day, Jane was too happy. I was too happy. The father was so happy, and as well as the whole members. They gave us some pieces of advice, like, Ablonvi, you have to love your wife. You have to take care of your wife. And they told Jane, you have to be submissive to your husband. If there is a problem, you have to discuss with him. And this is how we got married, and we have 2 kids. Love concrete everything. We should not give up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bobby. Love completes everything. Never give up. I'm going to adopt that. Our next storyteller is Kathy Schultens. Kathy is an escapee from southern Florida who has been living in and loving Montana since 1975. She and her wife are die-hard East Siders down in the Bitterroot Valley, along with their 2 rescue dogs, Pepe Le Pew and Jack Hammer. I knew you would appreciate that, Rachel. Recently retired after 32 years as a pediatric nurse, Kathy can now often be found strolling down mountain trails, taking an excessive number of photographs along the way. Please welcome Kathy Schultens.
As with any great adventure, there's often complications. They can be logistical, physical, and sometimes they're matters of the heart. My best friend Becky and I were hiking in the Big Hole to Hope Lake. We'd never been, we wanted to go. It was late September, weather was terrible. But we started up. The map said 7 miles. We could do that. What the map didn't say, we figured out about the 30th switchback, it was 6 miles straight up to the Continental Divide, over the top, and down another mile to the lake. So we're making promises to God to just get up there. She's my best friend, and we're just talking like best friends do. We have a 3rd companion, Katie the Wonder Dog. She was a retarded 3-year-old golden retriever, and she didn't belong to us, but we had her with us. Well, we were talking about everything except what we needed to talk about, because I'd met Becky about 7 years before that, and we immediately became best friends. She was smart and funny. She was a tomboy, and I was a tomboy, go figure, and so we did all kinds of fun stuff together. She was the most caring and kind person I'd ever met. As a matter of fact, whenever we had to go into Missoula and we went together, I made sure I drove. Why? Because if you were in the passenger seat, every corner that a guy had a sign, she'd go, Kathy, hand that guy $10. Hand that guy $20. And it'd come out of my wallet, right? I'm like, pfft. So I drove, saved myself a lot of money. So we were talking about all kinds of stuff except what we needed to talk about. And that was, recently, our relationship had kind of shifted a little bit. Okay, it shifted a whole lot. We'd become lovers, and we didn't know how that happened, but there we were in the middle of a mad, passionate affair, and we didn't know what to do with that. Becky was gung-ho. Becky had said, come be with me. Let's spend the rest of our lives together. And I was like, I don't know, because there was some major complications, okay? First, we were both already in relationships. Wasn't fair to them, and we were feeling pretty crappy about that. 2, Becky is a straight girl. And any lesbians out here, you know what trouble straight girls are. They've listened to one too many Katy Perry songs. They just want to kiss a girl, and they'll kiss you, but then they'll break your heart, and I was well aware of that. But the biggest complication was I am a relationship loser, okay? I had left every relationship I was ever in. I'd think I was in love, and pretty soon I wasn't in love, and I was gone, okay? Well, Becky wants to have a relationship, and I'm thinking, how can I do that? I'm no good at this. I'm going to hurt her, and I'm going to lose my best friend. And I didn't want to do it. And so we had a lot of discussion to do to figure out what we were going to do. Neither one of us was very keen on that, though, so we ignored it. On the top of the Continental Divide, you can see forever, and it was gorgeous, and we had made it to the top. But what we could see was thunderstorms, snowstorms, and most importantly, the sun was going down. There we are on the top of the Continental Divide, sun's going down. So we know we're not going to make the lake. We're not going to make the lake. We can't because we're responsible. And we don't want to be caught on a mountain in September in the dark, okay? But we take a few minutes to look around, and we watch this hawk flying along the ridge, just on the air currents, beautiful. And the next thing you know, that hawk comes, and she's hovering right in front of us. And I swear to God, you guys, if I had reached up, I could have touched her, okay? And she's looking at us, and we're looking at her. And you know, I'm not one of those bitterroot, hoogity-boogity, woo-woo, mystical girls. I'm just not, I'm pretty cut and dry, but something mystical happened with that hawk. Can't explain it. She's talking to us. And just as I turn my head to Becky to see if she's hearing the same bullshit I'm hearing, the bird flies up over the other side of the ridge and down towards where we think Hope Lake is. There was no discussion. We had gotten a message. And the message was go to the lake. So, against everything we knew to be smart, we checked our bags and said, what do you got? What do you got? Well, I had a water filtration pump. We had a fishing pole. Becky had a 9mm Glock on her hip. So butchy. We had a pound of trail mix that I was already sick of. I hated it. We had some matches and a pen light, and we decided, let's go. So, I don't know, we go. And by the time we get down to that stupid, ugly lake, it's dark. Okay, so Becky starts fishing right away because guess what? Katie can't eat trail mix. And I start looking around for something dry to start a fire with because I know we're going to freeze our asses off. And I'm watching Becky, and every time she gets a fish on, of course she's a big cheater, uses worms and a bobber, that bobber would go down and Katie'd be like, oh, fun! And she'd jump in after it. And Becky would lose the fish. So I wasn't doing as well either because everything's wet, and I can't get anything started. And I was quite the pyromaniac as a child. I could burn down anything, but I was striking out. Well, just then, Becky's coming up. She's got a couple fish that she saved, and she sees my dilemma. And I'm almost out of matches, okay? I'm starting to freak. And she says, I got something for you. And she reaches deep inside her jacket and pulls out a handful of love letters that I'd written to her in the past couple months. Score. We're going to live. So we take the time to read these letters because we're in love. We read these letters out loud to each other, and they're full of how much I think she's great, I think she's fabulous, and what a shit I am, and how terrible I am, and I'm going to ruin the relationship, And I didn't want to do that. Lots of doubts and fears. And as we're reading them, she's shaking her head, and she's crumpling them up and putting them in the fire. And pretty soon we got that fire going, and it's rip-roaring now, right? And she's cooking the fish for Katie, not for me. And she says, oh, look at that. Look at that smoke going up. All your doubts, all your fears, all your misgivings, up in smoke, Schultens, all gone. I'm like, oh, yeah? Well, what about the love that's in those letters? She said, oh, the love goes to the universe, and the universe is listening, and we're going to be okay. I just nodded my head, and we spent the rest of the night trying to stay warm, freezing our butts off. And every once in a while, Katie would make things interesting by looking off into the woods and growling this growl that I've never heard a golden retriever do. And I would shit my pants every time, right? Rah! Now Becky like whipped that Glock off, go in this commando crouch, right? She's ready to shoot up anything in the woods. I'm like, woo! She's badass, I love her. So we spend that night freezing and talking, freezing and talking, freezing and talking. And it starts snowing. First light of dawn, the snow's coming. So we get the hell out of there, right? But I take one last look at that little campsite, and I think to myself, what did we just do? We did something outrageously stupid, dangerous, something we never really should have done. But we trusted each other, and we worked together really well, and we made it happen. And is that much different than what Becky's asking me to do with her? To lean out of my comfort zone, to trust. And I figured if I trusted a bird I'd never met before, I could surely trust my best friend. So on the way down, I tell her, yes. And we are on cloud 9. We run down that mountain. We don't even stop at the camper. We jump in the truck because we have to find a payphone. The nearest payphone, Wisdom, Montana. So we go to Wisdom and we call the people that need to know that we're not coming back. And we tell them. Because that's not home anymore. Home is in my Becky's arms. And that's where I wanted to be. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys, that trip, that September, this next September, that will be 25 years ago. I'm still madly in love with her, and she's still my best friend. Thank you.
Where are you at, Becky? Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to all of our storytellers so far tonight. Thank you to our American Sign Language interpreters, Bonnie Curian and Denise May. Thank you to our title sponsor, Blackfoot Communications, and to Garden Mother for providing access to the American Sign Language interpreters. Thanks, Garden Mother. Thank you to our in-kind sponsors, Joyce of Tile, specializing in custom tile installations. She's right over there. Learn more at joyceoftile.com. Missoula Broadcasting Company, including ESPN Radio, The Trail 103.3, Jack FM, and 104.5. Thanks to Gecko Designs. Check them out at geckodesigns.com. Float Missoula, learn more at floatmsla.com. True Food Missoula, check them out at truefoodcsa.com. Order your food by tonight, I think, and get it delivered Wednesday. Thanks to MissoulaEvents.net. When you frequent these businesses, please thank them for their support of Tell Us Something and live storytelling in Missoula. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your love, your open hearts, your respect, and your very presence. Without you, Tell Us Something doesn't exist. And remember, if you have a short story to share, the next Tell Us Something event is scheduled for September 27th at the Denison. And those tickets are on sale right now at tellussomething.org. The theme is letting go, and you can learn how to pitch your story at the Tell Us Something website. Typically, this is where we would have an intermission break. It being outside, it'd be hard to, I think, wrangle everybody. So we're going to forego intermission tonight and move to our next storyteller. So Act 2. Katie Gardner is a humanitarian at heart. She believes in the connection of all things. Katie is a lover of art and the simple, beautiful things this life has to offer. Please welcome Katie Gardner.
Hello? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. Do any of you remember what it's like to fall in love at a young age? And maybe a lot of you are going through that right now. But when it feels like nothing else matters except for that person and that you guys would be together forever, that's how it felt the night that I met James. He had walked into the store that I was working at on a night that I should have never been working. So that's how I knew it was meant to be. He was a smooth talker. He always knew what to say, and he made me feel wanted from the moment we met. We went out New Year's Eve night, and at this point, we'd been going strong for about 4 weeks. And honestly, how well can you really know somebody in 4 weeks? If you would have asked me then, I would have said, oh, I know everything about this guy. You couldn't tell me any different. I was in love. I was dumb. If you would ask me now, I'd obviously tell you, you know nothing about a person in 4 weeks. So pretty typical New Year's Eve night. We're out drinking. It's Missoula. I had just turned 21. We're bar hopping, having a good time. At some point throughout the night, a guy had approached us looking for a party. He was new in town and didn't really know anybody, and so, of course, we invited him along. Yeah. We wound up partying with him all night long. We closed the bars down, and at this point, we're pretty wasted, and James and I live out in Bonner, and there's no way we're driving home. So this guy offers us his couch to stay at with the stipulation we'd be up the next morning at like 6:30. He was going skiing with his buddies. So we stayed the night on his couch, and the next morning, he took us back to my truck, and we parted ways. A little while later, James and I were having a very lovely breakfast at McDonald's, and he goes, hey, you know that house we just left? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, we literally just left it, so it's pretty. He goes, yeah, that guy, he left a .357 Magnum sitting on his counter. And me, at the time, knowing nothing about guns, was like, oh, nice. He's like, yeah. He's like, I want that gun. He's like, and I want you to go take me to get it. And of course, I'm in love, so why wouldn't I? So I said yes. I took him to go steal the gun. Later on, James and I are driving around Missoula, and we get pulled over. You would think it was because we had stolen a gun, but it was because I had a cracked windshield. And the night before, there was a fatality, and they were looking for a vehicle that was involved in a hit and run. And so that's why they had stopped us. And during this traffic stop, James had actually wound up going to jail. Surprise. He was up here on the run for 12 felonies out of Missouri. went to jail, and that was the first time he had deceived me. So shortly after his incarceration, we had lost contact. We had kind of quit talking to each other. And about a year and a half later, I got a random phone call from a lawyer. And I don't know if any of you have ever been in trouble, but when you get in trouble, the state plays this game called, well, let's make a deal. If you testify, I'll give you this. If you plead guilty, we'll give you that. And this lawyer says to me, he's like, hey, the state wants to charge you. And I was a little shocked and confused and didn't really know what was going on. And he said, the state's looking to charge you with negligent homicide, leaving the scene of an accident, and tampering with evidence. And I'm stunned at this point, and I didn't really know how to respond. And he said, this is a really good deal, and I think you should take it. And I immediately said no. I said, I'm not going to take this deal. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to plead guilty to a crime I didn't commit. And he says to me, you're never going to get an offer like this again. And you know, when we make life-changing decisions, we never really realize in the moment how life-changing they are. Looking back now, I always wonder what it would be like if I would have taken that deal. But instead, I said no. And before I get too ahead of myself, I want to tell you why this lawyer called me. So the day that James had went to jail, he knew that they were looking for a hit-and-run suspect. And because he was on the run from Missouri, we had also been charged with a burglary charge. And so he was looking at doing time in Montana as well. And he was looking at being charged with a persistent felony offender, which could land him up to 100 years in prison. So while he was in jail, he had concocted a story to get himself out and put me in. I trusted and believed in our justice system, and I believed that everything was going to turn out normal and fine. You know, I was like, the state has nothing to prove. I'm not going to be found guilty. Like, if you would have asked me now, I was like, people don't go to prison that didn't commit crimes. Like, everybody in jail is guilty. That's what they're there for. And I realize now how naive I was. And after 5 days of trial, I was found guilty by a jury of my peers. And shortly after, I was sentenced to 40 years in the Montana Women's Prison. If I would have taken that deal, I would have only spent 5 years in prison, maybe. And I don't know if you guys know how often innocent people are incarcerated, but in the United States, over 3,000 people have been exonerated. And 15% of those people that were incarcerated under false testimony, just like I was. And I know we gave a shout out to the Innocence Project, but the Montana Innocence Project here in town had heard about my case about a year into my incarceration, and they had done some investigating and they had done some research, and they decided to take me on as a client. They're an amazing group of people that spend their lives saving others. And they've been fighting for my freedom for the past 12 years. And I know that I'm standing here in front of you guys today, but I want you to know that I'm still not free. I had to ask permission to be here tonight with you all, because so they've been fighting for my freedom for the past 12 years, and 10 of that was spent in prison before I was paroled out. So I've been out for almost 2 years now. And I would never say that I'm thankful for this kind of an experience. I would never wish this upon anybody, but I have gained so much from this experience and so much knowledge. And I understand now what's important to me and how I want to live my life and how I want to honor those that have fought for my freedom and that have stuck by me this entire time. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Montana Innocence Project. Our next storyteller is Linda Grindy. Linda is an amateur philosopher and a professional garden beautifier. She leads nature rituals and wild women camping retreats. Linda learned to swim this winter, and just last week, she competed in the backstroke event at the Senior Olympics. She also competed in the putting and cornhole events. And her team won the gold in cornhole. She will be playing Maureen for the Missoula Backyard Theater production of Rent or Die this September. Please welcome Linda Grindy.
Same thing. A little, but. It's 1975, late summer, and I am in a cabaret in Hamburg, Germany. No, not the musical cabaret. I am in a real, honest-to-God German cabaret theater performing at the Salambo Theater, actually, which is where the Beatles supposedly got their international start. I am with a company of 30 performers that were hired in New York City to come and join this theater. We've been in rehearsal for 3 weeks, and we have a Broadway choreographer who's putting a full modern ballet to Gershwin's American in Paris on us. We are learning the authentic can-can with cartwheels and hitch kicks and drop-to-the-floor splits. They've hired a specialist from Paris to come and teach us this. It has been wonderful. I mean, the experience has been as sunny as the weather. We all have been given our own apartment in a building that's within walking distance of the theater. They've hired a costumer to build the costumes for us, not just pull them out of storage. We have all gotten special shoes for the can-can, because when you do a drop to the floor from a cartwheel, those heels will just fly off unless they're reinforced. So we've been taken care of. The shows are so fun. There's a Judy Garland impersonator, and I'm one of the 3 Andrew sisters, you know, the trio from World War II. It's been fabulous. It's the night before opening, and our producer, Monsieur Durand, has invited us all to dinner. And it is extravagant. We step out of the apartment building, and there is a line of Mercedes-Benz waiting to take us to the Argentine steakhouse, which he has reserved, the whole thing, just for us. He says, order whatever you want. Then, after the dinner, he stands up. Now, Monsieur Durand is German, but he uses his French name. He is a cross between a young Salvador Dali with a little mustache and goatee, and one of the 3 Musketeers. He's got long, black, curly hair. In my memory, he's wearing a big hat with a plume, but that's just my imagination. And he tells us that our show is going to be added to the show that's already there. And he is effusive with his praise, how wonderful we are. He knows how to win over a room of actors. So the next night is opening night, and I'm in a small dressing room with 5 other performers. I mean small. If somebody has to get up to pee, we all have to pull our chairs in so you can open the door. I step out into the hall, and the first thing I see is a 6'2" blonde Swedish goddess in nothing but high heels. You know, it's a cabaret. I figured strip shows, burlesque, but in Europe, they do the real thing. It's live sex on stage, artfully done, but... So it turns out that our cute little song and dance numbers are going to be sandwiched in between live porn. In reality, it's goofy. It's actually comic. Imagine the Andrews sisters waiting off stage while the S&M guy, still in his mask and leather thong, is scrambling around the floor, picking up his whips and chains and leather straps. We pick our way to the front of the stage and begin our number. Who's the loving daddy with the beautiful eyes? What a pair of lips I'd like to try and emphasize. Right? Well, it turns out with the new material, each show runs about 2.5 hours. And we do 3 shows a night. With a break in between, that means we get to the theater between 6 or 7, and we don't get out till 3 or 4 in the morning. And we do this 6 nights a week. By now it's late October, so that means if you get some sleep, by the time you wake up, you may have 2 hours of daylight. All thoughts of traveling around Europe on my time off, forgotten. On Sunday, I barely have enough time to buy groceries and do my laundry. Well, days roll into weeks. We are into the routine. My best friends are the other Andrews sisters, Elizabeth and Claire. In their other life, they are showgirls from Las Vegas, but out of costume, they are as down home as farm girls. One night, we're sitting in the dressing room, and somebody says, "Is this the second or the third show?" Nobody knows. We're living in this murky blur. Well, by late November, the Americans are kind of homesick. It's Thanksgiving back home. And Monsieur Durant invites us all to his house for dinner. We're so excited for a change, a break in the routine. We get dressed up, and I remember standing in the entryway, taking off our coats and talking, and then somebody swings the front door shut, and that's when I see it. Right behind the door, in a prominent place, a portrait of Adolf Hitler. My brain freezes. I really can't recall anything else about that dinner. But I do know that afterward, the Andrews sisters came to my apartment and we sat down, we started putting the pieces together. We'd been so busy working, we hadn't really thought about it. Monsieur Durant is always seen with a couple of big, beefy guys around him. They've decided to pay us in cash because that would be easier. This extravagant lifestyle that he's been showing us can't be paid for by this little theater. I'm from northern New Jersey, and these girls have worked in Vegas. We've rubbed elbows with organized crime. We don't know what's going on, but we got to get out. So you've seen the movies, right? You don't walk away from the mafia. So we have to come up with a plan. And we have to keep it secret because we don't want to start a stampede if the rest of the company knows we're going, and we also don't want to have them make us stay. So our plan is this. First, we have to get our passports back. Oh, they'd taken our passports about a month ago, and we hadn't heard anything about them. It was no concern until we realized we have to get them back. So we decided something close to the truth would be best, and we said to the front office that we want to go to Copenhagen on our day off. And we pester, and we pester, and we pester. It takes them days, but finally we get our passports. Now, in those days, to buy a ticket to New York, you had to go downtown to a travel agent. So we have to carve out some time in this crazy schedule to go down there and buy a ticket. We get that done. Finally, we have to figure out, how do we get our baggage out of the building? You can't walk out the front door, So I live on the first floor. So there's a little balcony in the back that drops down onto a street. The girls bring their luggage down to my apartment, and while they go get a cab, I take those suitcases and throw them over the balcony one at a time so they can take them in the cab. And I'm wondering if anybody back there, they probably see this all the time. So they take the suitcases down to the bus station and they put them in a locker. Now we're ready. It's into December, and we decide that we're going to go on a Saturday night because no one is going to miss us until Monday call. So we go through the first show. We go through the second show. We're excited, but nobody knows anything. We go finish our can, kick, drop to the floor. We jump up, run to the dressing room, change into street clothes while the rest of the company is taking the final bow. We dash out the back door, into a cab, to the bus station, grab our suitcases. From the bus station to the train to the airport, and I don't exhale until we're on that flight off the tarmac, headed back to New York City. My friends go back to Las Vegas. That Christmas, I got a postcard from my friend Elizabeth in full showgirl attire, feathers and all. But I never heard from any of those people again. You've heard of the last tango in Paris? Well, this is the last can in Hamburg.
Thank you, Linda. Our final storyteller of the evening is Raymond Ansotigi. Raymond Ansotigi was born and raised in Montana. He is a reclamation scientist and spent a decade as a rodeo bullfighter. He's intense. His wife is a world-renowned artist that shares her life with him on their piece of paradise overlooking the Yellowstone River and the Crazy Mountains. He loves people and the bond of storytelling that holds us together. Please welcome Raymond Ansotigi.
I had just finished my second year of formal education, and it was tough. Math was okay, phonics, they're great. Sitting still, being quiet, not so good for this kid. I still had the ability to focus, and I did really good. I got the grades in second grade, but I got the good grades. And in return, my parents offered that I could do one thing I wanted to do, anything, for a day. Definitely the biggest life choice I had made at this point. And without the slightest hesitation, I said fishing. My parents knew I wasn't a Disney World kid. So I'm ready, I'm gonna get my day to fish. 2 hours later, my dad comes in and says, "Hey, I'll trade you if you do a little cowboying. You could go fishing for 5 days." Oh, lottery. But he said, we're gonna go to Deer Lodge if you're up for going. Yes. And by Deer Lodge, he means we're going to Montana State Prison. You see, my father's a professor at Montana State and taught animal science. And in the process of his PhD, because MSU is a land-grant school, the prison is also a state-run facility, they can work together. And for most people who don't know, the prison has their entire cattle herd They have their own dairy, and it surrounds the entire tight incarceration area. So, but where we're specifically going is a place that Thomas McGuane wrote about. Some young actors, Jeff, Sam, Slim, made very famous in a 1974 film called Rancho Deluxe. Rancho Deluxe is the primo housing facility for inmates at the prison. It's several log cabins. It's outside the main secure area, and these guys are cowboys. They could get on their horses and ride off at any point, but they don't. So we're gonna go there. I can't wait. The truck is loaded, the canned ham camper we're pulling behind, and I'd spent enough of my childhood. I was potty trained at the prison. But in this phase, I don't remember the gate. I know there was a gate. I remember guards. But I do remember that crossing over the hill and dropping down into Rancho Deluxe. There's these cabins, this huge roundabout, corrals, barns. And as we pull in, I'm in my fishing heaven. And right out comes a gentleman, blue pants, blue shirt, blue vest. And he's coming quick with a smile from ear to ear. And this man's skin is the perfect tone of mahogany, but blended in are scars all over his face. And not acne pockmarks, these are cuts, blades, wounds. But as he approaches and he's saying hi to my father, whose name is also Ray, the spaces between his teeth are as beautiful as the teeth that he's carrying, and this love is coming from this man. He says hello to my father and gets his head inside the truck and says, "Hello, sir, who are you?" And I'm Raymond. And he shakes my hand. He says, "You must be the fisherman." And he looks back over his shoulder and he's like, "Whose bike is that in the back of the truck?" I was like, "That's my Huffy Wrangler." Dark brown, tan stitching, chopper bars, banana seat. Third grader's dream. He says, "Well, if you're here to fish, I'd probably be willing to make a trade with you because I'd really like to learn how to ride a bike." I just finished second grade. I haven't been riding a bike long, so I'm probably going to be pretty good at teaching him how to ride a bike. So we haul the bike out. My dad leaves to go do adult things. Chico and I start. And I'm telling you, I must have been the best bike coach ever because this guy rode a bike like he's probably ridden a bike a few years in the past. But he's wobbling it. He's doing the show. And we're out there for hours. And as we come in, he says, "We're going to make the trade for fishing, but I have this one other trade if you want to make it." It's one of the greatest life lessons, but I can't share it with you unless you eat my vegetables and your vegetables both meals a day for the whole time you're here. That's big. But it is the greatest life lesson. But I have to do it before dinner. He reminds me, after dinner tonight, no go. Can't start and do a 4.5 day. I'm pretty good at taking my fork at home, and I can stab almost all the vegetables in one round and get them in, sometimes 2. So what's 4? I could do 4 of those for this life lesson. About then, the truck pulls over with the food, and we shake because it's a deal. And we go in and sit down. He quickly puts his vegetables on my plate, and it's this big. But I know we've all seen it. It was the lima bean, kidney bean, green bean chop that's held together with like the end of a really good lung cold when you really get the and that's like there. Oh. And they're all watching because every one of these inmates is loving this. One other problem, if you heard my reference of how I like to get vegetables on my fork, you can stab other things with a fork. So forks are gone, no knives. I got a shitty little spoon. I got to weasel these things in. So my 4-fork plan went to a lot. We get through. Chico grabs this big apple, reaches into his pocket and pulls out a pocket knife, which confuses me a little. And he sits down, and Chico, with the scarred face and these kind eyes, just started whittling. The Michelangelo marble, Chico apple. This guy carved a face so beautiful, so intense. The eyes looked at you. The nose was so strong. The lips were perfectly pursed. And this hair. Tied it on a string, hung it up. That was the end of the evening. I don't think I slept a lot. The next day we went and did cowboy stuff. Chico rode up and said, "Hey, come here." Pulled out a can, old empty can of peanuts. Showed me the best spot to get these big fat worms. We finished doing cowboy stuff, came back, ate lunch. Oh, looked at this apple. Not much changed. Beautiful. That afternoon I fish. I fish every day for the next 4 days, pretty much minus riding for a couple hours in the morning. I had peas that were holding shape beyond physics because when they touched your mouth, they just stopped and went creamy, and they tasted horrible. And then I looked at this apple, and there were some lines by the eye, and little lines were shown by the mouth. And the apple wasn't that same perfect color of an apple. It was starting to change. He wouldn't say a word, go through more projects, eat more bad vegetables. Julienne carrots should have texture and not just appearance. And I watch, and this apple, the nose is starting to curl back and sink, and it's really shriveling. It's physically changing its size and the presence that it's holding. I got some awesome fish. I also got to spend a ton of great time with my father. But I kept my eye on Chico because these vegetables were bad. So we get to the end of this process, which is our last lunch. I choke down another round of veggies, and I look at this beautiful, wrinkly face. I'm standing by my dad. No one says a word. Everyone says goodbye, and I'm crushed. Like, I can't imagine what my 3-year-old face was. And we got ready to leave, and Chico was like, "Hey, we made a trade. Do you want to know what your life lesson is?" I would also like to know what that face looked like, because I'm sure it was pretty good. Chico comes up and he takes the apple down and he just hands it, puts it right in front of me, says, "Remember, no matter how beautiful or handsome anyone is, in the end, they're going to get old, wrinkly, and ugly." What the? And in my 3rd grade lexicon, fart knocker jerk, I don't know, but I was pissed. But I was silent. I got in the car with my father, and as you can imagine, I'm a talker. I didn't say a word from Deer Lodge to Livingston. But in that time, I chose not to take Chico's words. I didn't know what a sacred clown was then. I still wonder today. But I chose not to take that. And now, I look at wrinkles, I look at blemishes, I look at noses changing and ears growing, and I remember that lesson. But the lesson I take from it is that no matter what, and as we go, those are our stories. That's what we carry. And our last day on this planet in this form is our most beautiful day. Thank you.
I'm just going to use this one. Thanks, Raymond. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you all so much. Thanks again to Blackfoot Communications and Garden Mother. Thanks to True Food Missoula, Empanada Joint, House of Ferments. You can find them at the farmers market every single Saturday, and they have amazing kimchi. Thanks to all of our storytellers tonight. Thank you to Raymond. Thank you to, oh gosh, I don't even have them all written down. This is what I was told not to do, but I'm doing it. Thank you. We're going to work backwards. Raymond, Kathy, or Linda, Katie, Kathy, and everybody else. Bring them all up. Sorry, Ray. Ray! Thanks, everybody. So I want to ask a couple favors. First of all, don't forget to get your tickets for the September show and pitch your stories. Also, though, the chairs, Joyce and some volunteers and I set these chairs up this afternoon in the hot sun. And we have to load the U-Haul with these chairs. So if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, fold up your chair and bring it over to the boulevard in front of the U-Haul and lay it flat. Stack them flat, stack them about this high, please, if you want to. Thank you all so much. Have a fantastic evening. Happy summer.